All right. Uh, Again, we continue our exploration of consciousness in different approaches to knowledge. Last time we just made an overview of how consciousness works on different levels of being in integral yoga and Vedic tradition. And now today we want to look into this topic from the point of view of from the psychological approach to knowledge. Here it is, and let's start. So, in the philosophical approach, which is not different from psychological in the ancient tradition, we saw that we have 7 levels of consciousness and being. There are several levels of being, starting from divine self or divine existence as Brahman and divine self as Atman, and Chaitanya Purusha or Chaitya or Chit Purusha, which is Chit Tapas, the consciousness force, which we will be dealing with it today from the psychological point of view, and Anandamaya Purusha, which is resulting in Vijnana Maya Purusha. And we can see that these are the 4 major from the upper um, from the transcendental point of view, and there are 4 lower, as we see, Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha, and Vijnanamaya Purusha, the 4th one, which is the highest in this range. So Vijnanamaya Purusha is the highest from the lower point of view, and Vijnanamaya Purusha is the lowest from the highest point of view. And in that sense, we can see that 4 is always maintained. Either you look at it from the transcendental point of view or from the point of view of embodied consciousness. In the Vedic tradition, these were known as Chatushpad. There are constant references to Dvipade, Chatushpade, be merciful to Dvipad and Chatushpad. And usually these 2 terms are translated as to the 2-legged and 4-legged being. So 2-legged is a human being, Dvipad, and 4-footed is the animal being. But Sri Aurobindo gives a very interesting explanation or interpretation of this term. And he says that actually these are not the terms of human beings and animals, but this is the Chatushpat, and here we can see it. Annamaya Purusha, Prana Maya Purusha, Manomaya, and Vijnana Maya. This is Chatushpat. So it is a view on 5 levels of or 4 levels of consciousness, 4 padas. Pada is also a level, not only a foot, or footing as a level. So there are 4 footings. And this is the view of evolution of all nature. All nature evolves from the material to the pranic level, to the level of life, and then to the mental consciousness, and finally to the supramental. And Dvipad is, Sri Aurobindo says, is the connection of our soul, of our inborn self with our unborn self. And here we have totally different interpretation and view, and this is this vision. And you can see that these will be the qualities of our inborn self, which is connecting to that transcendental self. And here we see this transcendental self in terms of Mahashaktis. Yeah, these Mahashaktis are actually representing those 4 levels of being, consciousness, um, uh, bliss, and truth. And here we have them. Maheshwari is the consciousness which is viewing the being directly, whereas Mahalakshmi is the Mahakali and Maheshwari represent Chittapas, consciousness force, which is viewing being. Mahalakshmi represents the bliss, and Mahasaraswati, the Vijnana, the truth. So these are, if they are taken as one self, transcendental, and projected into our being, we will have them as the qualities of our inborn self, of the psychic being. And these are the qualities of the psychic being, which are directly representing the transcendental qualities of Satchitapasananda Vijnana. And this is quite interesting to view this. So it's another view on consciousness, Dvipad. The inborn self, the presence in the heart is connected with the presence over the head. This is the two major um, faculties of integral yoga. We will be dealing with these two um, views on consciousness all the time. So here I started last time to view it from the psychological point of view. The true being, says Sri Aurobindo, may be realized in one or both of two aspects: the self or Atman, that unborn self, and the soul or Antaratman, the psychic being, Chaitya Purusha, inborn self in the heart. The difference is that one is felt as universal, that over the head is universal, the other as individual, supporting mind, life, and body. So when one first realizes the Atman, one feels it separate from all things, existing in itself and detached. This is the spiritual realization over the head of our witness self, which was never born and will never die. When one realizes the psychic being, it is not like that. For this brings the sense of union with the divine and dependence upon it, and soul consecration to the divine alone, and the power to change the nature and discover the true mental, the true vital, and the true physical being in oneself. Both realizations are necessary for this yoga. So, and we most probably already mentioned the difference between these two. The presence in the heart seeks and wants to realize only the divine. It rejects every other formation which is not the divine, whereas the presence over the head considers everything to be the divine already. It views everything as if it is the divine, but it is kind of misplaced in time and space, in different contexts. So it views that, sees the divine in everything, the presence over the head. It views everything as the divine, but placed wrongly in time and space. Whereas the psychic presence is more focused. It doesn't see that, doesn't consider this placement. It views it as right or wrong, as more divine or less divine, and wants only the divine. So it will reject everything which will come to it as the presence of the divine, but misplaced, it will not accept it. It will take only properly placed divine being, the self. And in this sense, of course, both of them are necessary, because the presence in the heart is more direct, is truer to its own perception. It wants only the divine realization, whereas over the head it views everything as if it is potentially or essentially the divine, and potentially will find its place where it will reveal its essential properties.
A question, Vladimir, excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, Vladimir, I want to know if we have this kind of experience, just like a glimpse, a moment.
Right. I think it is going on with us all the time. It's, for example, there
Yeah,
is.
but my question, sorry, my question is, if we can achieve this kind of experience, right, with this kind of fusion with the divine, it's already fusion with the other sentient beings, isn't it? Because there is no difference between, if it's no difference between us as individual with the divine, it's no difference with you and me at the same time, isn't it?
Well, there is essentially, from this highest spiritual point of view, we are all coming from the source, the same source or the same origin. And in that sense, of course, so we are, from the spiritual universal point of view, we are one and the same being. From the point of view of manifestation and the multitude of souls, we have our unique perception and unique entry to view these divine properties in our unique way and have unique relations. And in that sense, we are different. And this difference will be maintained throughout the evolution of consciousness. It will become essential for us to become the supreme individual divine. So every one of us, being the supreme, will have a unique quality or unique perception of the reality. And that uniqueness will bring or add to the enjoyment of the divine existence a unique quality.
But in this way, it's like a vertical relation. It's not horizontal. It's not transversal relation, isn't it? Between us, it's only vertical with the center, if you want to say, with the source.
Right. If you look at the, yeah, with the mental point of view, horizontal and vertical, so horizontal will create many rays which will be crossing in
Like a
different
converse.
positions, and these different positionings will give you the unique entry to the center and to the others.
Yes, but if this is happening like that, what about the experience of universal compassion? When I'm feeling in my heart compassion, I feeling no difference between you and me. We are connected in the same level of, what do you, if I can express like love simply, and there is no individual in that time. I feel your pain, I feel your joys in me like it's mine, pain or my joys. Then how can I maintain the view of this is my vertical experience with the source, link it with the source to you, but keeping our differences. This step is difficult for me to.
Yeah, it's actually it's going quite beyond the mind. It's much easier to reconcile anything in the mental way, as there is oneness, there is no individual, there is only one Brahman, and there is no differences. The nature is the illusion, and this is the way of reconciling with the mind. The mental kind of knowledge or the mental need will be satisfied by this kind of conception. But the reality is is not only to justify the mind's needs. It's not here to satisfy the mind's needs, yes, and justify his own views. It is. It is as it is. So, if we could examine it, if we could really try to learn about it, to see what it is, we will be surprised that, truly speaking, firstly, when it looks very contradictory at the end, our mind finds a very interesting new position. It's like, to compare the reasoning to dialectics. Dialectics looks like very impossible for the black and white reasoning, yes or no thinking. But when you move to dialectics and develop this kind of thinking, mind becomes more flexible. And from there, you can move even farther away to the symbolic way of thinking, where symbols are looking totally contradictory to the dialectic way of thinking. The dialectic can manage it, but to the reasoning, it will be impossible to think in contradictory terms. But the Brahman, the spirit, the consciousness is true to its whole and to everybody in particular. And here we have this impossibility of the mind to hold both. It's either Brahman is everything and the spirit, the divine is everything, then the individual is false. It's our mental approach. Or then individual is true, then the holistic view is put into question. But we don't need to to go for it too soon. Let us wait a little bit and develop and see what will happen to our mind when we see how our experiences will lead us and give us some new insights where the mind will adjust and get new ideas, new concepts, new visions, new reconciliations, which will become kind of knowledge at the end for the mind also. We can use that integrally developed mental faculty, which will allow us to reconcile between the contradictory terms of this existence. For example, the presence in the heart accepts only the divine, and the presence over the head accepts everything as the divine. This is contradictory to the mind, but it is true to our experience. Um,
Thank you.
so let's proceed, and we will come back to it because it's a fundamental question.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can I just maybe mention something, Vladimir,
Yes,
before we go
please,
on?
Radhe.
I'm just wondering, Siegfried, if maybe what's being referred to in your question is that third movement of widening, right? Where you can see the multiplicity in the oneness and the oneness in the multiplicity. So these are two movements here, but there is a third that Vladimir will mention, I think, in this presentation, which is that widening and that compassion and unity amongst others or with others, even though we're individual. So I don't know if that was what you were kind of referring to when you were saying you feel like the other and the compassion for another. It's this unity or widening of our individualized self. So I don't know if you want to say something about that, Vladimir, but I think you mentioned that later.
Right. Well, there's then we will have to come to this uh, psychic transformation, spiritual transformation, and finally the supramental transformation, where all these steps on the way change our attitude dramatically. First, we see ourselves as the individual who is looking for the divine, accepting the right things, rejecting wrong things. Then once we are born as an individual divine, when the psychic comes to the front, we are starting widening the scope. We are starting seeing ourselves in everyone and everyone in oneself. And this is what Sri Aurobindo calls the spiritual transformation. And that's what you are referring also probably to. And this compassion. Compassion comes from understanding that everyone here is you. And you and you are everyone. But that is the realization which is kind of which is we have glimpses of it. Yes, we have sometimes this true glimpse or some kind of presence which tells us that it is true, and it's like intuitively we feel it's true, but as a realization it's a very high realization. Sri Aurobindo had it in Alipur jail when he saw him in everything and everybody presence of Krishna, of the Supreme Divine. And that made his view on the world change. So he saw the presence in everything, also in things, in the tree which was giving him shade and protecting him from the burning sun, even in the bars of his cell, which was protecting him from the outer world. So sitting in the cell in the prison, he saw his own cell as a protector, as the presence of the divine. So in a way, how far one can go with it. Yeah. So see the divine in everything and everyone. But of course, it's a second kind of stage of realization. First, one has to realize oneself individually as the divine, and then to be able to identify oneself with the whole world and see the presence which you have in yourself in others. Yes, so if we move ahead with this, so Sri Aurobindo speaks how consciousness functions. Today is a little bit a technical topic, technological topic. We want to see how consciousness works. It's a profound topic. It's my favorite, by the way. And I would love us to plunge into this technology, how consciousness works. So Sri Aurobindo says there are secret operations in us, in our subconscious and superconscious selves. So it seems we are not only these physical beings, we have also superconscious selves above and subconscious selves below, which precede this action. But of these we are not aware in our surface being, and therefore for us they do not exist. We are not aware of their presence. If we knew of them, our whole conscious functioning would be changed. We would change in our ways of doing things, perceiving things, understanding things. If we would become aware of those superconscious operations and subconscious operations. Most probably, therefore, we are cut off from them, not to become too soon aware of them, because we would not be the same beings if we would not fulfill our mission. So here it is, essential sense. Essential sense is that very idea of consciousness. When consciousness perceives something, becomes aware of something. Everything, Sri Aurobindo says, everything begins with vibration or movement, the original kshobha or disturbance. If there is no movement of the conscious being, it can only know its own pure static existence. Without vibration or movement of being in consciousness, there can be no act of knowledge and therefore sense. Without vibration or movement of being in force, there can be no object of sense. Now, what he says is that consciousness is consciousness force, consciousness power, knowledge power. Yeah, it's double in its double nature. And if there is no vibration in consciousness in the light of knowledge, then there cannot be the sense. One cannot really sense anything as the being. One cannot sense the being if there is no vibration within the light of knowledge. But if there is no vibration in the power of consciousness, there cannot be an object of sense which we sense. So the power manifests the object, and the knowledge manifests the sense, sensing the object, and they are going together. They are manifestation of one consciousness. So movement of conscious being as knowledge, becoming sensible of itself as movement of force, in other words, the knowledge separating itself from its own working, to watch that and to take it into itself again by feeling. This is the basis of universal Samjnana. Samjnana is this sense, universal sense. This is true both for our internal and external operations of consciousness. So it is true for all operations. Samjnana, if I analyze this word, it will be sam, which is equivalent to com, yeah, in Latin, and then jnana is sense, yeah, consciousness. So we have literal translation of consciousness, samjnana. Sri Aurobindo translates jnana usually as self-realization. So it's like becoming aware, samjnana, identifying oneself with the object of sense. Now, what he says here is fundamental for understanding of consciousness. Actually, this paragraph is telling us how consciousness operates. So if we take any object, then sensing this object is the consciousness which actually manifested this object in power. Why I am able to adequately sense any object, because that consciousness which manifested this object separated itself, as it were, from this working of power and perceived this object in a new way, as if it came to know it for the first time, a fresh perception. But it is actually not a fresh, it is already a part of this manifestation. And this knowledge that everything is the result of the conscious manifestation in power, all the objects, they are the result of this self-perception, which is now separated, and we perceive it anew by feeling. We can feel this object as if objectively, and this objective feeling is giving us a sense of new discovery, which is not new. We are kind of remembering, rediscovering that consciousness which is inherent in this object. This is the whole trick of manifestation. Every time we discover something, it is like we remember, oh, I know it. Now it's so interesting. I know it. How do I know it? Because I knew it before. It is only this trick that I discover it anew gives me a sense of fresh discovery. I knew it because the object is already there, manifested with that consciousness, which I also share myself, because consciousness is one, as you rightly said. It's everywhere, in everything.
Excuse me, dear Vladimir. Um, Everything what you are telling us is based in these poles, right? Poles. And if we are, if we have to base all this process of consciousness in that poles, it's because it's embodied. What I want to say is, if we are not embodied, there is no poles, there is no consciousness, isn't it?
Absolutely. The consciousness then becomes, as Sri Aurobindo says, it is, if there is no movement of conscious being, there is no pulse, there is no kshobha vibration, it can only know its pure static existence. So there is no being, there is just existence, pure, infinite, which is like pure mirror in which nothing, no ripples, no movements, no activities, no force. It just views its own infinite, eternal, immortal existence. It's a pure mirror. Yes, absolutely. Now Sri Aurobindo gives this example, which can be very helpful, how these two are acting constantly through whatever we do. I become anger by a vibration of conscious force acting as nervous emotion, and I feel the anger that I have become by another movement of conscious force acting as light of knowledge. So in one sense, I'm feeling this anger, this energy, and another, I know that it is anger. They are going together. I am conscious of my body because I have become the body. That the same force of conscious being which has made this form of itself, this presentation of its workings, knows it in that form, in that presentation. I can know nothing except what I myself am. If I know others, it is because they are also myself. Because myself has assumed these apparently alien presentations as well as that which is the nearest to my own mental center. All sensation, all action of sense is thus the same in essence, whether external or internal, physical or psychical. We can know only what we are. There is only one way to know, the knowledge by identity. He calls it the knowledge by identity. If I identify myself with the body, I am the body, I know the body. I know that I am the body. If I identify myself with this light here, I know the light, I become the light. This is the only knowledge which we may have. There is no other knowing. One cannot know things with which one is not identified. So, Samjnana, this is his definition. Samjnana is the contact of consciousness with an image of things by which there is a sensible possession of it in its substance. I take this phone and I feel that this phone became part of my body. I feel by the touch, the cold metal. I feel how it is hard, how it is slippery. I feel by my fingers, it became part of my body. I brought this image in and I feel it because I feel this body which I have become identifying with. And now through this body, I can identify myself with anybody. If prajnana, it's another type of consciousness, can be described as outgoing of apprehensive consciousness to possess its object in conscious energy, to know it, samjnana can be described as inbringing movement of apprehensive consciousness, which draws the object placed before it back to itself as to possess it in conscious substance, to feel it. So one is in bringing, I'm identifying with this telephone that it is me, part of me, and the other is outgoing of apprehensive consciousness. I see this telephone as not myself, as separate from myself, as the telephone. Now, on one side, I see it as part of myself, that's how I feel it. And on the other hand, I see it as not part, as something else, not being a part of myself. Prajnana is the consciousness which holds an image of things before it as an object with which it has to enter into relations and possess by apprehension and analytic and synthetic cognition. So I can take this phone, view it as such, click on it, press buttons, use it to call. I can do with it something as not myself, though I identify it with myself first. Otherwise, I would not be able to keep it in my consciousness and to deal with it as something else than me. So these are two movements of apprehensive consciousness. One is outgoing, to know it analytically. I can break it, I can screw it down, I can see what is inside, I can analyze it, I can synthesize it, I can deal with it as if it is separate from me, as object. And at the same time, to do it, I have to identify with all the movements of this sense, object of sense, as myself. Otherwise, I will not be able to hold that consciousness, that action upon this objectively existing being.
Yeah, sorry. In this case, it's like Prajnana is holding the duality, and Samjnana is the oneness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And if
The
it's the one,
Samjnana is built on the identity, whereas Samjnana on the difference of the object of sense.
and then Samjnana can be translated in English with the concept awareness.
Consciousness, yes, conscious, yes. Samjna. And prajnana, I do not know, maybe like objective knowledge or seeing, objectively knowing things. Prajnana is closer to our analytic or our scientific mind, which examines everything as an object. When I was in the university,
It's more conceptual.
conceptual and also objective in a way.
Yeah.
When I was in the university, my teacher in Sanskrit told me that you don't need to identify yourself too much with these kind of theories and with this mythology. You don't have to be to know how fish lives. You don't need to be a fish to know how fish is. And I disagree with this. You cannot know anything about fish if you are not becoming a fish. You have to identify your consciousness with the fish. Otherwise, how would you know what fish is? It's not knowing. Putting apart and analyzing all the constituents of the fish, of internal organs, of how it lives, it's not really knowledge.
No, it's a fantasy, it's an illusion, because the idea of the fish is in you.
Right.
You're building the idea.
scientists are not aware that they actually, by analyzing the fish and its life, they already did Samjnana. Without Samjnana, they would not be able to really even start analyzing the fish, because they would not have that object within their consciousness. They would not be able to reach it, to touch it, because it's out of their reach. So to bring it into their reach, they need Samjnana first. It's automatic there. They are not aware of it. They think that they are aware only of analyzing objectively. It's not possible. No objective analysis is possible without subjective identification.
It's not possible a picture without the film.
Huh?
It's not possible make a picture, a photograph without the film,
Yes.
photograph paper.
Yeah, and even more, there is no possibility to, yes, to do any photo without the film, without the camera, and without the real life, a real object. Yeah? So all of it has to be there. It depends on what part we are fixing our consciousness and how we are interpreting it. So here, this definition of these two apprehensive cognitions, I will come to it again, what is apprehensive cognition and comprehensive. Samjnana is apprehensive cognition by becoming one with the object of sense, and by making it a part of oneself, it can be identified with the major faculty of subjective self-knowing. It is by identifying oneself with the image of things that one can actually know it. It is apprehensive because it appropriates the object of sense and brings it into oneself. We take it as the object. We appropriate its property. We make their property, the properties of the object, our own. It makes a part of the subjective self. It makes it a part of the subjective self, and that knows it. It is based on the essential sense, operating as knowledge by identity. This is consciousness, knowledge by identity. There is no other consciousness. And prajnana is apprehensive knowing by dwelling on the image of things, bit by bit, through analytic and synthetic cognition, recognizing it as such. It can be identified with objective self-knowing. I know this self objectively, not subjectively, not through my feeling, but objectively as it is. It is apprehensive because it deals with the elements of the object of sense and knows them as such, as if objectively, not as oneself. It's not me, it's other self. Now, these are two movements of apprehensive cognition. There are two movements of comprehensive, and we will finish with consciousness. There are only four movements. Vijnana. Vijnana is original, comprehensive consciousness, which holds an image of things in its essence, totality, and parts and properties. It is the original, spontaneous, true, and complete view of it, which belongs properly to the supermind, and of which mind has only a shadow in the highest operations of the comprehensive intellect. Now, the difference between apprehensive and comprehensive cognition is that comprehensive is understanding. So if I see the object, I see the object, but I do not understand what this object is about. Yeah? To understand it, I need comprehensive consciousness. It means I need to see what it can do. I can call, I can talk, I can view pictures, I can send messages. All this is comprehensive cognition included in this object. It is going beyond the form. It is something what you can do with it, how this form relates to any other form, to my hand, to my friends, to the events in the world, to the news. This object connects the whole world here in a particular fashion, in a meaningful, comprehensive fashion. And this is the Vijnana. Vijnana is the original comprehensive consciousness which holds an image of things in its essence, totality, and parts and properties. Everything is meaningfully connected. how this telephone fits into my hand, it is connected, how my fingers can hold it, how I can put it on the table, how I can start it, how I can charge it, everything, electricity, where it is coming from, the people from you are far away, this computer is connecting with you on the other side of the globe. Everything is one comprehensive understanding of the thing.
Can I say, sorry,
Yeah.
Vladimir? Okay. If the knowledge is already there, for example, you are talking about technologies, right? The knowledge of technologies is already there, even if you are in touch with the knowledge or not. It's already working on, right? Then, can we say if the knowledge is already there, but we are not knowing directly, but using and contact with, in touch with that technology without the contact with the understanding, can we say Vijnana is out of the individual?
Yes. It
Right.
is including every individual into this holistic relations with all other individuals. All the individuals are meaningfully related. Like
Okay.
the birds know how to fly over the ocean 10,000 kilometers, over Pacific Ocean, over Himalayas, you know, how they know where to fly. They're flying, there's ocean and ocean. So there is a knowledge which is inbuilt in everyone. Everyone knows how to be. Everything knows how to be. The stars know where to move. The planet, our planet's rolling around the sun moves around the galaxy. We are sitting here in these rooms and we are speeding up 1 million kilometers per hour. And we don't even notice it. Everything knows how to be. All these trees know how to grow, the light, electricity through the lamp. This computer knows how to connect everything and send the impulse and send the word. And my word is coming through me, coming to you. You think, respond. Everything knows how to coexist. This is this comprehensive cognition, this supramental knowledge where everything is one and knows how to be.
And from the individual experience, we can have some sparks of that comprehensive knowledge.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
what Shirobindoi says here. The best what our mind can do has only a shadow of the highest operations of the comprehensive intellect. We can't really see the wisdom of all things. We do not anticipate. We do not see what will happen next year or in 1,000 years or in million years. We do not see the plan. We are on the scale of time very limited. No, limited to these few seconds of our life. We don't see even few seconds before our life what will happen in front of us. So this is Vijnana. And finally, Ajnana, the last one. Yes?
So if you just go back to that other slide, so how does this relate to Sri Aurobindo's concept of idea, or the original idea of something that eventually manifests? Is it connected at all or not? I at first thought it was, because you said the original, spontaneous, true, and complete view. So it's that original that eventually kind of takes form, right? Or not?
Yes, yes. And that is what the original idea force. It's not only idea, it is idea charged with power, because there the knowledge and power go together immediately. They are one and the same. Yeah. So in that sense, of course, uh, everything comes from that idea. What idea means? If you look at linguistically, we will come to the linguistic interpretation of consciousness also. There we will deal with idea and the word. And there these things will become clearer, I think, at least to our mind. But mm, one thing one can say that the idea embodies the very idea of what it is to be. For example, the idea of mobile is communication with the whole world. in terms of pictures, sound, speech. Yeah, it is the idea. This idea of communicator, of connector, is embodied in this particular thing. Yeah? That idea can be embodied not only in mobile, it can be embodied in some other device, in computer, in, I do not know, some other, in the future there will be more devices, more gadgets, but the idea will be there. How to make the communication in time and space possible when we are separated. How to bring the oneness back to us. How to cut short on time and space, how to speed up the connection. Instead of going to you and talking to you over thousands of kilometers, I can connect with one click of a button and we are all here in one meeting room. This is the idea. And this idea is there. Of course, it is inbuilt into the very Vijnana, that everything is one, communicating immediately. This is the level of the supramental consciousnness. Even more, Sri Aurobindo says, if there would be any kind of need within the supramental consciousness, this is a very striking statement, then the whole system would rush immediately, instantaneously, to fulfill that need. Now, imagine such oneness. There is no delay. There is no delay even for a moment in you realizing any need. You know? So, of course, in that sense, if you look at this universe, all the needs are realized in a way in the embodied separate beings. So this being knows how to be. It embodies the idea. Of course, you can break it. It's another idea. You can break any gadget, any object. You can dissolve it into another form. So, but the energy will be preserved. The energy, the preservation of energy and change of form is another idea, which is also acting upon all these gadgets, all the objects and ourselves. These are the ideas. And the Ajnana, which I would like to conclude with today, is Ajnana is that the operation is the operation by which consciousness dwells on an image of things so as to govern and possess it in power. So, what does it mean in power? It means that subjectively, comprehensively, I can dwell on this object of sense. I can take it into my hand, I can press the button, I can change its position, I can put it back. This is all decided by this part of consciousness, this operation which we call Ajnana. Yeah? I can dwell and possess, govern and possess it in power, in my own decision, by my own will. Now I'm concluding. Ajnana is the comprehensive movement of consciousness expressed by the power of the self to rule or command over the image of things. The logos, the will, is expressed by the self. I am the self, I am the being who is expressing this will to take this phone into the hand and to press the button and to put it back. It is according to my will. I do it, exercise my comprehensive need of power. And Vijnana is a comprehensive simultaneous knowing of all parts in their relations and essence, supramental, subjective, and comprehensive knowledge, all including and all pervading presence of the spirit, as it were. It is comprehensive because it holds an image of things in relation to all other images in the subjective way, knowing their essential oneness and their essential difference. Now, I wanted to show you one simple example how these four simultaneously, automatically work whenever we do anything. I will take one physical action, not mental or vital, not feelings or thinking, because it's easier to see physically. So I will tell you, I will take this phone, which is here on the table, and take into my hand, bring it to my ear. Okay, I will leave the phone. I will take glasses off my nose and put them back onto my nose. I told you what I will do. Now look, I know that my glasses are there. So I take them, there is a ajnana, there is an action. For this action to take the glasses off, I have to identify myself with the glasses. I immediately know that where they are in position to myself. Yeah? I know that they are not myself, prajnana, yeah? At the same time. I know how they relate to my nose, to my eyes, to my hand, where to, this is Vijnana. I know how they will behave if I pull them out, and I will add to it this action of Ajnana or the willpower. And I am pulling them out. And I'm putting them back. These four are simultaneously present in every action. And not only outwardly, but inwardly also. In our thinking, in our feelings, in our movements. This ajnana we will deal with separately as the willpower in the next session. It would be very interesting to examine consciousness as will. Consciousness as a power of will. And it's a very important part because it will teach us or help us to understand that consciousness is not just awareness, not just knowing something that we are one. It is also a great power which can change the world and everything what is in the world. So we will deal with it in more practical terms. So there will be second part on this presentation on psychological approach to knowledge. Okay, I'm stopping here. And I open up for the questions or remarks.
Sorry, I don't want to joke with this.
Yeah, you can joke. It's nice. It's
Yes,
very nice.
not
Please
not
do.
with not with psychology or conscious. With the situation is involved our COVID era, but it seems like COVID is coming because we are creating this need.
Absolutely. I like this, what you say. It's very true. I also think the same way. We have a need. A need which we do not yet, we are not aware of really, totally outside. But inside it is felt. We came to the level, to the stage of stagnation of some kind. There is nothing new we can produce, nothing new to discover about ourselves. So we need a push from nature somewhere, and we get it.
Thank you, Vladimir.
Thank you. Yes, yes, Veronica. Here, I have to switch on. Oh, wait a minute, I will switch on. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is incredibly meaningful to me. Everything. I mean, yeah, your contribution to the understanding. Two things. One is I really like what Siegfried said. Yeah, COVID comes as an expression of a need and a transition, maybe into like a willing that is of a different quality willing, right? From the point of view of humanity, we have to will a new story. The old story is kind of done, in a certain way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to confirm that. And another thing is there a possibility of these slides that you showed today to have them, or
Yes, please, I can send to you. There's no
can you
problem.
please? And then I would have your email too if I wish to just ask
Yes,
her.
please. I will type for you my email
Thank you so
right now
much.
here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, yes, you're most welcome. I think it is somewhere. Chat. Yeah, you can write to me. It's either or.
I'm going to copy the email too, Vladimir.
Yes, please do.
Where is it? Where is it?
I will send to you our will organ. It's VLAD at our will organ. It's in a chat. I just sent to all of you, so you can copy from there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, easy to remember. VLAD, first four letters of my name,
Okay.
and then auroville.org.in. Great. Wonderful. I am very glad that we could manage to go through this not easy topic. Every time I make an attempt to describe these fundamentals of secret operations, hidden operations of consciousness, I always meet with resistance of some kind. Maybe people think it's too intellectual. It's absolutely practical. I think this is something which we as psychologists, so to say, have to know how consciousness operates. And it is simultaneous. That's why we do not see those elements. We just spell them out because we want to become aware of those elements, how they work together. But otherwise, they are simultaneously in every moment of consciousness. I want to make a gesture, all four are there. I am aware of my hand. I am aware that my hand can move separately from me, from my consciousness. I am aware what I want to gesture of meaning to make, and I do it with a force. Yeah, and so on and so forth. So next time we will look into will, how to widen the consciousness, heighten, deepen, and go deep into the psychic and reveal this inner presence in ourselves.
In 15 days? This is going to happen in 15 days?
I'm not sure if it is 15 days or it may be in a week. Not yet sure how we arrange this. But I will, yeah, I do not know. If you send me your emails, we will put you on the list and you will know it definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so all the best. And I'm then closing with the mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
See
you.
you. Bye.